everybody. Nice to see you all. Thank you for having me today. My name's Jane Baker. I work for a professional services and accounting firm called BDO. I work in our early careers team, predominantly looking after our activities in schools, our outreach initiatives, and a bit of international recruitment sprinkled in there as well. Not many of you, we're going to talk about brand awareness in just a second, but I don't suppose many of you have heard of BDO. So if you've heard of, I hate to draw the comparison, but if you've heard of KPMG, PwC, EY, what's the other one? Deloitte, thank you. That's the big, thank you. That's the big four, as they're favorably referred to. We are very proud to say that we are the fifth largest firm in the UK and the world. And you're probably still thinking this, sitting there thinking, I still haven't heard of them. That's absolutely fine. And that's a problem that we're going to address today and talk about a bit today as well. So what I'm going to discuss with you is about sort of pre-skilling for the future, pre-skilling students, early engagement, the journey that BDO have recently started and are on to address some of the challenges that we've experienced, our use of partnerships, et cetera, et cetera. So I really can only speak about it from BDO's perspective and our sector's perspective. But I suspect, there's a lot of acts there, I suspect that from what I've heard during the roundtable discussion, there will be a good amount of overlap with some of the stuff that you've been talking about, the challenges and all the rest of it. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about how we target or are planning to target age groups appropriately. There's a whole rehash going on. And then we'll talk a little bit about influencers. So I'll try and get through that as quickly as possible with my allocated time. So developing workplace readiness. As I say, this is a new tack that we are kind of taking because what we were doing traditionally with the budget that we had, with the partnerships that we had, wasn't necessarily working. So why is it important? So we need to think about how prepared young people are to apply their skills and attitudes or work ethic in a work setting. So gone are the days where it's about showing up for an interview with shiny shoes, shirt and tie, a CV, a cover letter, all of that kind of thing. It's not really about that anymore. As we all know, COVID had a fairly dramatic impact on sort of the development around the social skills, the soft skills of a lot of these young people. And that's really sort of manifested in how we're seeing, you know, our average school leaver candidates and our graduate candidates behaving and adapting and approaching an interview or an assessment process, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something that we need to think about. I have been in this business for, you know, between different employers for about 13 years. And it is a very, very different landscape now as to what we were dealing with back then, as I'm sure you can all agree. So simple things like when a candidate, you know, working in early careers, talent attraction, a candidate will text you a message now or feel very comfortable WhatsApping you a message rather than picking up the phone, which is what, you know, I would have died of shock back in the day if someone sent me a text message, I'm going to be late for my interview. Well, number one, we're not going to let you in now. And number two, pick up the phone. But also, you know, they don't know how to behave in a corporate setting necessarily because no one's shown them that. And that's, again, one of the sort of soft skills that we'll be thinking about today. We don't necessarily care as much about the technical skills required because coming from an accounting firm, you know, audit, tax, advisory, are we really expecting an A-level student or a freshly graduated university undergrad to show up and know anything about audit or financial statements, et cetera, et cetera? No, not really. We can teach you that. But can you show up? Can you look someone in the eye? Can you shake somebody's hand? Do you know how to answer a phone professionally? Do you know how to dress for the day and all these kinds of things? And another thing that we need to have a think about as well is that the attractiveness in our sector in particular has taken a bit of a hit. And we'll have a look at the exact stat that we're working with in just a second so you can gauge the gravity of the challenge that we face. And it might be similar to some of the challenges that you have as well. Okay, so let's talk about that challenge, the challenge in our sector, in the professional services sector. So the talent pool for us is shrinking. 1 in 10 students are interested in accounting and financial management, and that equates now to 8% of student interest from that whole pool that we're working with. And that's actually gone down from last year. We were at a grand total of 9% last year, so it isn't getting any easier. It's going in the opposite direction. Now, as a sector, we hold 19%. So do the maths if you will. As a sector, we hold 19% of the market vacancies at a trainee level. So we've got 8% of the interest and 19% of the market trainee vacancies. So we commission schools and university research from Sybil, who are part of GTI Group, and they've reported that talent pools are continuing to diminish at year 13 and final year graduates as well, forcing a need to invest more heavily on early years engagement. So that's our starting point. We had to look at ourselves and saying, where are we going wrong? Is it enough now to go out to careers fairs at universities? Is it enough to go out and give out a branded water bottle and to go into schools and do a quick hour skill session with some year 11s and 12s and 13s and say, hey, hi, we're BDO. I hope you really liked me today. Apply for a role. Not really. It's not enough, is it? So the Careers and Enterprise Company report that 4 or more meaningful encounters with an employer has the potential to reduce a young person's likelihood of becoming NEET. So again, what we have tried to get away from is the traditional approach of doing these one-off skills sessions, one-off careers fairs. And while you might go into a school and do a skills session and they might really like you and have that lasting impression and be like, Mum, we met with somebody from BDO today, et cetera, et cetera. Fast forward 2 days, 2 hours for some of these guys, gone. You know, the brand awareness hasn't been installed in their psyche. They've forgotten about us, and there's just no lasting impact there. So we know that we need to be doing more. We need to be regularly engaging from earlier to create that sort of sustainable relationship that's going to hopefully help us build our talent pipelines. And what does it mean for us at BDO? I've made reference to it already, but it doesn't serve us any longer to wait until year 12 to arrive on the scene. We're not Big Four. We can't compete with Big Four. We can't compete with the big banks and the Amazons and the Googles. We just can't. It's about know thyself. And we are now realizing that we need to get in front of these students as young as year 8, 9 in some cases. And it's about how we design a user experience, if you want to call it that, a user journey, some content, some assets, some resource, that when we go out, we're doing it in an appropriate way, which we're going to look at in just a second. So again, you know, we have people in our business who are more old school than I am, who will say, well, let's go out to this college and meet with some year 12, year 13s and do a careers fair. That's great, but really, is that serving us any longer? And how can we kind of maximize that relationship and the partnerships that we have to help us with that? Okay, so why are we engaging earlier and how is it going to serve us better? So what we need to do is support awareness of our brand. Heard so many people talking today about getting their brand awareness out there, and that being one of the major things that we struggle with. I can't imagine British Airways have that problem, but as you say, it's about, even if you have heard of a brand, it's about the specialisms within that and not just being one-trick ponies, not just being pilots, not just being auditors. So from a BDO and professional services perspective, it's great if they are now familiar with BDO, but are they really familiar with what that means? Do they understand what a tax advisor does? Do they understand the consultancy side of things? Do they understand advisory? So it's not just about, again, the brand awareness piece. It's about breaking it down into all of the different things that we do. We've got IT, we've got HR, we've got all the different, facets that make up who we are, our DNA, if you like. We have regional challenges that will hopefully be addressed if we engage earlier. So London obviously has a massive pull, a lot of clout. We've got an office on Baker Street. It's in a really lovely location. And it's very, very hard to compete with that and decide, actually, I'd rather work in Gatwick. I'd rather work in, Bristol, Reading, especially at that graduate age. We can't compete with the pull of London. Plus, more of our vacancies are in London as well. So if we engage earlier, we build these sustainable relationships and educate students, then they'll understand the different specialisms and all the cool things that they can do in the surrounding areas and up and down the country as well. So we found that a sustained relationship forged earlier on is going to support with reducing offer reneges as well and build a stronger foundation for success once on board. So logically, if we have an earlier relationship, a stronger relationship built earlier, they will have a better understanding of our culture, the challenges, the journeys, the options and opportunities that will be available to them when they join. And they'll be less likely to join us because they just needed a job. I'm just out of A-levels. I'm just out of uni. I need a job. 2 weeks in, a month in, 2 months in. Oh, Christ, this was not what I was expecting. This is hard. I didn't get it. I thought it was banking. This is why we need to get in front of them early and educate them on what it is that we actually do. So we're going to move on to the second part, which is about sort of targeting the different age groups. And we're going to have a look at what methods that we are using and are planning to use, and when it's time to sort of get people young ready for work. All right. So as young people become more aware of what's possible for them in the world of work, they begin to narrow their options. They start to specialize. Obviously, that's all part of their journey, their development, their evolution. We know that the talent pool is small already because growing numbers of eligible, high potential young people are ruling themselves out at school and university. That looks too corporate. I'm not good at maths. I'm not going to be any good at that. I want to be an influencer. I want to be a footballer. Not really how it works in the real world, as we all know, but that's not the mindset that a lot of these young people are fostering at this point, as we know. And again, that's another challenge that we're up against. So at BDO, what we're now planning on doing is segmenting the early careers audience, starting way earlier, segmenting them into different buckets, dare I say, different audiences, and creating a bespoke journey and experience for each of them, and creating what I have been calling in the last few weeks this continuous loop of engagement. We are using connectors to support us with that, and other suppliers as well along the way to sort of support with things like virtual work experience, insights and stuff like that. So we have created some content and some messaging to dispel the myths, and again, to help us with these challenges and to educate and to answer the question for these young people, why BDO or why not? So let's look at the breakdown of these, buckets is an internal term I'm going to try not to use too much, but these audiences certainly. So we are now, albeit ambitiously, looking to start our engagement with students at sort of 11-ish, what's that, year 7, year 8. For this audience, we focus on teaching numerical and financial skills and the necessity of human relationships. We're not going in front of a bunch of 11 and 12-year-olds and saying, what do you know about audit? Tell us about tax. What do you know about tax? Not appropriate, wouldn't work. We'd lose them instantly, and it's just not what they need, and it's not going to get what we need from them. So instead, we've sort of decided to gamify it, make it fun, get them thinking earlier on about their values, their soft skills, sort of search for those early sparks of resilience and grit and problem solving. And as I say, we've created some content that aligns with that. And then obviously we have our second audience, which is the 13 to 15-year-olds. We're going to be targeting teenagers through social media because it'll be getting to that time where they're going to be starting to utilize that more, and using exercises that they can complete at home or on their own or with their parents or at school with teachers. So for this audience, we're focusing less on the education around the numbers bit and finances, and more on problem solving and educating them on audit and advisory. So we've done the sort of the groundwork with the 11 and 12-year-olds, and we're moving in now to, well, this is a sort of a mock-up of what an audit looks like, or do some sums around, how much tax you might pay on X, Y, and Z, that kind of thing. So the next audience will be the 16 to 18-year-old group. So obviously we're going to talk about, now you need to start thinking about a career. Where are you going to go next? You've worked with BDO on X, Y, and Z. You've learned this much this far. What are you going to do with it? And again, social media is going to play a really big part on that. We focus on the aspects of the job that they'll care about the most, the opportunities to travel, how much you're going to pay me, all that kind of stuff, which we know is important to them. And as I've said, we'll use methods that align with BDO's values and sort of our ambitions as well. And then obviously the last group that we'll be working with are the 19 to 22-year-olds who will be getting ready if they've gone to university, thinking about what they're going to do after uni. So as I say, we've got those unique experiences along the way, and this continuous loop of engagement where we're sort of engaging online with these students, offering them online information and chances to discuss opportunities with mentors, and then sort of handing them off to an insight day. Come along to BDO's insight day, and then back on that loop, and then come along to try BDO's virtual work experience, that kind of thing. So in doing this, what's going to happen is we're going to create more attractiveness of the sector and brand, we hope. We want to create a clearly defined pathway and purpose to encourage students to continue to take their next step with BDO. I'm enjoying this. They seem invested in me. I'm going to keep going. We're going to see what's next. We're going to develop a long-term, multi-year strategy to improve the outreach to the early and career candidates, making sure that they're informed, and we're building and diversifying sustainable talent pipelines, which ultimately is our return on investment, which is what we need. Okay. The last section is about the influencer group and why it's so important. I'm going to go straight to the next slide, if that's okay. So it's important that you see, again, this is from the Sybil research that they did for us. You'll see that the importance of parents is actually a lot higher than you would expect, much higher than celebrities, role models, teachers, and careers advisors. So for apprenticeship level students, that is 59%, and that's gone up. You'll see that over the last few years, the importance of the parents' influence has gone up quite considerably. And again, like I've said, that's from Sybil's research they've been kind enough to share with us. If you want to take a picture of that, that's grand. Okay, so that's just a very quick whistle-stop tour of the influencer landscape. But as part of this segmented approach of these buckets that we've separated, these audiences, I apologize, we have included influencers. So I've talked about 4 different age groups that we're going to be targeting, but the 5th audience that we're going to be creating content for are for the influencers, which was, as we've seen, is predominantly parents, but also careers, advisors, teachers, ambassadors within our firm. And it's going to be part of our targeted user journey. So we can pre-skill students via influencers by utilizing support networks to cascade knowledge down to them. And we're going to make sure that we're creating resource packs and toolkits. So we need to be able to get teacher buy-in. And one of the quickest ways for us to do that is for us to provide them with a toolkit that aligns to Gatsby benchmarks, et cetera, because that's what they're asking us for. And we're going to make sure that we're creating closer working relationships with students. And it means that students are more likely to understand the benefits of continuing their journey with BDO because they're going to have that influence sort of backing them and pushing them along the way. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour as to what we've been doing at BDO around pre-skilling and the importance and how we've changed tack. So does anybody have any questions?